She opened the restroom door and froze. All three girls were leaning over the sink. Before we dive into this story, please consider subscribing to my channel, turning on the notification button, and letting me know where you're watching from in the comment section below. Raymond, also known as Ray, had always been the center of Madame Susan's world. As her only son, he was the embodiment of everything she held dear. From the moment of his birth, she poured all her love into him, trying to fill the void left by her late husband. Her grief was immense, but Ray became her solace, her golden boy. She built her life around making sure he had the best of everything, ensuring that he never experienced pain or discomfort. Their mansion in the exclusive neighborhood of Lekki Phase 1 was a testament to Madame Susan's wealth. The walls were adorned with imported artwork, the floors made of the finest Italian marble, and every room was filled with designer furniture. For Ray, life was a fairy tale. From an early age, he learned that a single tantrum could get him whatever he wanted. When he was 5, he cried in a high-end toy store, demanding the newest video game console. Shoppers watched in disapproval, but Madame Susan simply smiled and purchased 2, one for his room and another for the living room. "Anything for my prince," she would say. However, not everyone in Madame Susan's circle approved of her methods. Her closest friend, Fatima, often voiced her concerns. One evening, as they sipped tea in the luxurious living room, Ray burst in. "Mom, I want to go to Millennium Park next weekend. Book the tickets now," he demanded, without even acknowledging Fatima. Madame Susan's face lit up. "Of course, my darling," she cooed as she reached for her phone. Fatima couldn't hold back any longer. "Susan, you're spoiling him," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Love isn't just about giving him everything. It's about teaching him values, preparing him for the real world." Madame Susan's smile faded as she defended herself. "Fatima, Ray will never need to face the hardships of the real world. I've made sure of that." Fatima shook her head sadly. "I've seen how this story ends, Susan. When life hits, and it always does, he won't know how to handle it." But Madame Susan dismissed her concerns, as she always did. "Ray is perfect. He'll never need to fail, because I'll always be there to make sure he succeeds." As the years passed, Ray grew into a handsome young man with charm and confidence. But beneath the surface was a dangerous entitlement. His world was built on the belief that he was untouchable, that nothing was beyond his reach. That illusion began to crack the day Glory, their housemaid, came to Madame Susan in tears. "Madam, I'm pregnant," Glory whispered, her voice trembling. Madame Susan stared in disbelief. "What nonsense are you talking about?" she snapped. Glory's knees buckled as she fell to the floor. "I didn't want this, but Ray insisted. I was scared of losing my job." Madame Susan's face hardened with rage. "How dare you lie about my son, you ungrateful girl!" she spat. Without listening further, she called her driver and sent Glory to a clinic, ordering a procedure to remove the disgrace. Glory sobbed, begging Madame Susan to reconsider, but the woman's heart was stone cold. In her mind, she wasn't being cruel. She was protecting her son's future. As Glory lay in pain at the clinic, she cursed softly through her tears. "Ray, Madame Susan, my God will punish you. You will know no peace." For years, Madame Susan covered up every scandal Ray caused, convincing herself that boys will be boys. But Glory's warning lingered, haunting the edges of her mind despite her attempts to suppress it. What she didn't realize was that this time she had planted the seeds of a reckoning that would come sooner than she could imagine. Ray, oblivious to the storm gathering around him, continued his carefree life, not knowing that the choices he and his mother had made were shaping a future filled with consequences neither of them could escape. Ray stood at the window of his room, staring blankly at the boxes his mother's housekeepers had packed for him. His acceptance letter from the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, lay open on the desk. And though the posting was mandatory, he couldn't believe he had been assigned to Nigleen Secondary School, a public school far from the comforts of Lekki. His frustration simmered beneath his calm exterior. Madame Susan entered the room, dressed in a silk burgundy blouse and a matching wrapper. She smiled warmly, but her eyes held a trace of sadness. "My darling, are you ready?" she asked as she brushed a lock of hair from his forehead. Ray groaned dramatically and threw himself onto the bed. "Mom, do I really have to go? Can't you make a few calls and have them reassign me somewhere closer? This place is in the middle of nowhere," he complained. Madame Susan sat beside him, patting his hand affectionately. "I tried, my prince, but even I couldn't change this. It's only for a year. Think of it as an adventure. Who knows? You might even enjoy yourself." Ray sighed. "Adventure? More like exile. I'm stuck teaching physics to kids who probably don't even know how to spell." Madame Susan chuckled and kissed his forehead. "You'll be fine, Ray. You're my son. You can handle anything." The next morning, the driveway was filled with boxes and suitcases as the driver loaded the last of Ray's belongings into the car. Madame Susan handed him an envelope filled with cash, a brand new iPhone, and a sleek black credit card. "Call me anytime you need anything," she said, her eyes shining with pride and reluctance. Ray nodded, impatient to leave and get the journey over with. He kissed her cheek, muttering a soft, "Thanks, Mom," before sliding into the back seat. As the car sped down the expressway, Ray's initial sadness began to shift into excitement. He imagined the new faces he would meet and the charm he could wield. It won't be that bad, he thought. When they arrived at Nigleen Secondary School, the difference between this place and Lekki was stark. The school had chipped walls, rusting window frames, and a bare football field. Yet, despite its rough exterior, students laughed and played, their energy filling the compound. Ray stepped out of the car and was greeted by the principal, Mr. Joe, a stout man in his 50s, wearing a gray shirt and brown trousers. His round glasses glinted under the midday sun as he extended a hand. "Welcome to Nigleen Secondary School, Mr. Raymond," he said with a warm smile. Ray put on his most charming grin and shook the principal's hand firmly. "Thank you, sir. I'm looking forward to making a positive impact." Mr. Joe nodded approvingly. "That's the spirit. We're happy to have you here. Let's get you settled in." Ray's lodgings were simple but clean. A small room with a wooden desk, a single bed, and a worn chair. After freshening up, Mr. Joe led him to his first class. The chatter of students faded as Ray walked in. 30 pairs of eyes turned toward him, and for a moment, the room fell silent. "Class, this is Mr. Raymond. He'll be your new physics teacher," Mr. Joe announced. "I expect you all to give him your full respect and dedication." Ray smiled at the students, his gaze sweeping the room until it landed on 3 girls sitting at the front row. Faith, Precious, and Loveth, collectively known as the prettiest girls in school, PGS. Faith had long braided hair adorned with gold beads. Precious had soft curly hair and a radiant complexion, while Loveth had an athletic build and playful dimples. Ray could see the admiration in their eyes. They whispered among themselves, giggling, their curiosity piqued. "Hello, everyone," Ray began, his voice smooth and confident. "I'm excited to be here, and I hope we'll make this a year to remember." A collective sigh rippled through the room as the girls exchanged glances. After class, the PGS lingered behind as other students filed out. Faith spoke up first. "Sir, we just wanted to say your lesson was amazing. Physics has never been this interesting." Ray smiled, enjoying the attention. "Thank you. I believe physics can be fascinating if approached the right way." Precious leaned forward, her voice soft. "Do you offer extra tutoring sessions, sir? We want to make sure we're ready for our exams." Ray pretended to consider it. "I suppose I can make some time for dedicated students," he said. "We'll discuss it after school tomorrow." The girls nodded eagerly before hurrying out, giggling. Ray watched them go, a sense of triumph washing over him. "This might be easier than I thought," he mused. As he walked back to his quarters, the principal passed him and gave a nod of approval. But Mr. Joe had no idea what thoughts were running through Ray's mind, or how dangerous this adventure would become. Ray quickly became the most popular teacher at Nigleen Secondary School. Students flocked to his physics classes, captivated by his good looks, charm, and teaching style. He knew how to make even the dullest topics sound fascinating, sprinkling his lessons with jokes and real-life examples that made the students laugh. But behind the classroom charisma was a dangerous ambition. The prettiest girls in school, PGS, Faith, Precious, and Loveth, were always at the center of attention. They made it their mission to be around Ray as much as possible. Faith, with her radiant smile and gold-beaded braids, often stayed after class to ask extra questions. Precious, with her flawless skin and soft curls, lingered to discuss career advice. Loveth, the athletic one with mischievous dimples, often brought snacks to share with Ray. Each of them believed they had a special connection with him, and Ray encouraged it. One afternoon, Ray held his first private tutoring session with the PGS in the school library. He arranged their chairs in a close circle and began explaining difficult physics concepts. As he leaned over Faith's shoulder to point at a diagram, she blushed. Precious exchanged a knowing glance with Loveth, a silent rivalry sparking between them. Ray enjoyed the attention, feeding off their admiration. After the session, Loveth stayed behind while the other two girls left. She hesitated, then spoke. "Sir, I just wanted to say that you're the best teacher we've ever had. No one else makes us feel smart, like you do." Ray smiled, stepping a little closer. "That's because I believe in you, Loveth. You have real potential." His words sent a thrill through her, and she felt her heart race. "Thank you, sir," she whispered before rushing out, her cheeks flushed. Days turned into weeks, and Ray's reputation grew. He became known not just as the cool teacher, but also as the one who gave the PGS special attention. The other students noticed and whispered in the hallways, though none dared to speak out loud. Ray was too charismatic, and the principal, Mr. Joe, seemed impressed by the sudden improvement in the physics grades. One day, as Ray was alone in the classroom after school, Precious walked in. She closed the door behind her, holding a textbook. "Sir, I need help with a problem," she said, her voice low. Ray gestured for her to sit. As she sat beside him, she tilted her head, studying his face. "You're different from the other teachers," she said suddenly. "You actually care." Ray's smile was soft but deliberate. "Of course I care. You're a brilliant student." Precious's eyes softened and she whispered, "Do you really mean that?" Ray reached out and placed a hand on her shoulder. "I wouldn't lie to you, Precious." The room felt too quiet. Precious's breath caught in her throat as Ray's words lingered. Before anything else could happen, a sharp knock interrupted the moment. The door creaked open and Mr. Joe stood there, his brow furrowed. "Mr. Raymond," he said, eyeing the two of them. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." Ray quickly stepped back, adopting a professional tone. "Not at all, sir. Precious just needed help with a difficult problem." Mr. Joe nodded slowly, though his eyes held a hint of suspicion. "Good. You're doing excellent work here, but be mindful of boundaries," he warned before leaving. As the door shut behind Mr. Joe, Ray exhaled, his pulse steadying. Precious looked embarrassed and quickly gathered her things. "I'll see you tomorrow, sir," she muttered before hurrying out. Ray stood alone in the empty classroom, his mind racing. He knew Mr. Joe was perceptive, but he felt invincible. The girls were under his spell, and he believed nothing could stop him. Meanwhile, in the school restroom, Faith, Precious, and Loveth huddled together, whispering. The tension between them was growing, their friendship strained by silent jealousy. They each believed they were Ray's favorite, and none of them wanted to share. But the game Ray was playing had no winners, only consequences waiting to unfold. Ray's charm wasn't just his smile or the easy way he carried himself. It was the deliberate way he made each girl feel like they were the center of his universe. With Faith, Precious, and Loveth, he carefully stoked admiration into infatuation and then something more. Faith was the first to succumb to Ray's advances. During one late evening session in the library, the two of them sat close, going over a complex physics diagram. Ray leaned in, his voice soft and encouraging as he praised her for understanding the concept. Faith beamed, her cheeks flushed with pride. When she stumbled over a question, he reached out, placing his hand lightly on hers. "You're better than you think, Faith," he said, his eyes locking with hers. Faith's breath hitched. The way he looked at her made her feel special, seen. When she smiled nervously, Ray leaned in closer. "You're remarkable," he whispered. Before she could process it, his lips brushed against hers. Faith, caught off guard, didn't pull away. That evening marked the start of their secret meetings, where their study sessions turned into whispered promises and stolen kisses. For Precious, it was during one of their career advice sessions. Ray had asked her to stay back after class, claiming he wanted to discuss her potential. She arrived at his desk, nervously clutching her notebook, but Ray waved it away. "Precious, you're different," he began, leaning back in his chair with a soft smile. "You have a brightness about you that most people don't see." The words caught her off guard. She'd always strived for perfection, yet no one had ever acknowledged her the way he did. She blushed, fiddling with the edge of her skirt. "I see greatness in you," Ray continued, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "But you need to believe in yourself." When she looked up, his gaze was warm and intent. He reached for her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. Precious felt her heart race, a warmth spreading through her chest. When he leaned in, whispering how proud he was of her, she didn't move as his lips met hers. From then on, their career advice sessions became more about stolen moments than academics. Loveth's playful confidence. Loveth was different, bolder, more assertive. Ray played into her confidence, often joking with her during class and complimenting her athleticism. One afternoon, after the other girls had left a group session, Loveth stayed behind with a container of snacks she'd brought for him. "You work too hard," she teased, handing him a piece of bread. Ray chuckled, taking a bite. "You're too kind to me, Loveth." She laughed, but the way he looked at her made her pause. His tone softened. "You're incredible, you know that? Strong, smart, beautiful." The words caught her off guard. No one had spoken to her like that before. Loveth found herself sitting closer to him, her heart pounding as their knees brushed. When Ray reached out to tuck a stray cornrow behind her ear, her breath hitched. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise," he murmured, his hand lingering near her cheek. Loveth leaned in, her boldness faltering for the first time. Their kiss was charged, a mix of excitement and nervous energy. It was the beginning of a dynamic where her playful confidence melted in his presence, leaving her eager for his approval. Ray thrived on the attention and the power he held over the girls. Each encounter fed his ego, making him feel invincible. He justified his actions by convincing himself that he wasn't doing anything wrong, that the girls were drawn to him willingly. But what he saw as control was spiraling chaos. Each of the girls believed they were special to him, their affections deepening into something far more dangerous. The lines between teacher and student, mentor and manipulator had long since blurred, setting the stage for a fallout no one could avoid. The school compound buzzed with activity as the morning lessons resumed, but something felt off in Ray's classroom. Faith, usually lively and attentive, looked pale and distracted. Precious fidgeted in her seat, clutching her stomach, while Loveth kept her head down, beads of sweat forming on her brow. Halfway through the lesson, Faith raised her hand. "Sir, may I be excused? I don't feel well," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Ray raised an eyebrow, concerned but trying to maintain his composure. "Of course, Faith," he said as she stood shakily and left the classroom. Moments later, Precious followed suit, and soon after, Loveth excused herself too. The classroom fell into murmurs as the rest of the students exchanged curious glances. Miss Peace, the biology teacher, noticed Faith, Precious, and Loveth rushing toward the restroom and followed them out of concern. She opened the restroom door and froze. All three girls were leaning over the sinks, vomiting. "Girls!" Miss Peace exclaimed, hurrying toward them. "What's wrong? Should I take you to the clinic?" The girls looked at each other, panic flashing in their eyes. None of them spoke. Realizing something was seriously wrong, Miss Peace led them to the school clinic. Dr. Wendy, the school's physician, was a kind woman in her early 40s with a no-nonsense demeanor. She immediately began examining the girls, checking their temperatures and asking questions. "You've all been feeling nauseous? Any other symptoms?" Dr. Wendy asked as she studied their pale faces. The girls nodded silently. Faith finally spoke, her voice trembling. We've missed our cycles." Dr. Wendy's face darkened with concern. She hesitated, then asked gently, "Is there any chance you could be pregnant?" The room fell into a deafening silence. Faith lowered her head. Precious bit her lip, and Loveth's eyes filled with tears. Dr. Wendy's suspicion deepened. She conducted discreet pregnancy tests for each of them, her heart heavy with worry. Minutes later, the results confirmed what the girls feared most. All three tests came back positive. Dr. Wendy exhaled deeply, then sat in front of them, her expression soft but serious. "Girls," she began, "this is a life-changing situation. You need to be honest with me. Who is responsible?" Faith looked at Precious, who glanced nervously at Loveth. Tears streamed down their faces as their silence spoke louder than words. Dr. Wendy reached for their hands. "I can't help you if you don't speak up." Faith finally whispered, "It's Mr. Raymond." Dr. Wendy's heart sank. She had heard the rumors, the hushed whispers about the new, cool teacher who spent too much time with the prettiest girls in school. But hearing it confirmed was a shock. She clenched her jaw, trying to contain her emotions. "You need to stay calm," Dr. Wendy said, her voice steady. "I'll handle this, but you have to be brave." Meanwhile, word had already begun to spread. Students who had seen the girls rush to the clinic were whispering in the hallways. By the time the lunch bell rang, fragments of the truth had become a wildfire of gossip. Ray sat in the staff room, oblivious to the storm brewing outside. He sipped his coffee, smiling to himself as he thought about the PGS and how easily they had fallen for him. He had no idea that his actions were no longer a secret. Miss Peace entered the room, her face tense. "Raymond?" she called sharply. He looked up, surprised. "The girls? They're at the clinic." Ray's smile faded. "What happened?" he asked, feigning concern. Miss Peace's eyes narrowed. "I think you already know." Ray felt his stomach twist. The walls he had carefully built were closing in, and for the first time, fear crept into his mind. What had started as a game was spiraling out of control, and the consequences had finally arrived. Ray's journey is a powerful reminder that no one is untouchable, no matter how privileged they are. Madame Susan's blind love shielded him from accountability. But life has a way of catching up. By using his charm and position for selfish desires, Ray destroyed not only his future, but also the lives of others. This story teaches that when power and trust are abused, the consequences are inevitable, and the truth will always come to light. If you enjoyed this story and want more thought-provoking tales that highlight life's lessons, please share, like, and kindly subscribe to PaulSeries for captivating content that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Don't miss out on stories that will challenge, inspire, and entertain you.